Hello and welcome. I am the property lawyer, and in this video I'm going to explain how stamp duty is calculated. As a reminder, I'm going to focus on England and Wales because I specialise in property law for these countries. Please may I remind you, ladies and gentlemen, that the information provided in this video does not constitute legal, financial, tax or any other professional advice and is general in nature. It doesn't take your specific circumstances into account, and you should therefore seek professional advice from a qualified solicitor, tax or financial advisor. We're going to start off with what stamp duty is, how it is calculated, and then later discuss how the tax changes depending on whether you are a first-time buyer or buying a second property. We'll then discuss the Welsh tax system and what the key differences are between the English and Welsh stamp duty taxes. When buying a property in the UK, you have to pay tax to Her Majesty's Revenue and Customs for the privilege, and so it adds thousands of pounds to the cost of buying a home. Buying a property includes buying a freehold and buying a new or existing leasehold property. In England, the tax levied is called Stamp Duty Land Tax, or SDLT, and the same system is adopted in Northern Ireland. In Wales, it's called Land Transaction Tax, or LTT for short. The tax payable depends on the consideration, and this is usually the price you pay for the property and the type of property. Residential properties incur different stamp duty compared to a commercial or mixed-use property. We won't be talking about commercial or mixed-use properties, but if this is something that interests you, why not drop a note in the comments section of the video. We'll first start with residential properties in England. The stamp duty is calculated in a progressive way and is based on a tier system. The threshold is 0% for up to £125,000, 2% from over £125,000 to £250,000, 5% from over £250,000 to £925,000, 10% from over £925,000 up to £1.5 million, and then 12% for anything over £1.5 million. Let's go through some examples. Let's say you're buying for £150,000. Now we know up to £125,000 is 0%. The next £25,000 will be charged at 2%, which is £500. So the total stamp duty land tax payable for a purchase of £150,000 is £500. Let's do another one. Let's say you're buying for £280,000. So the first £125,000 is taxed at 0%, the next £125,000 is taxed at 2%, and then the remaining £30,000 is taxed at 5%. So we have the first part of our calculation, which comes to 0, the second part, which is 2% of £125,000, which is £2,500, and then 5% of £30,000, which is £1,500. 0 plus £2,500 plus £1,500 comes to £4,000, which is the tax payable for a purchase of £280,000. We'll do one final one. Let's say you're buying for £1 million. The first £125,000 is 0%. The next £125,000, which comes up to £250,000, is taxed at 2%. Then you add the next £675,000, which brings you up to £925,000. That is taxed at 5%. And then one more time, we have another £75,000, which brings you up to £1 million. And that £75,000 is charged at 10%. So the calculation is £0 for the first £125,000, £2,500 for the next £125,000, then 5% of £675,000 is £33,750, and then 10% of £75,000, which is £7,500. £0 plus £2,500 plus £33,750 plus £7,500 totals £43,750. Different rules apply if you are buying when you already own another property. Since 2016, if you own a property and you are buying an additional dwelling, you have to pay a further 3% of the stamp duty. So the tax rates all jump up by 3%. So if we go back to our examples, the first example where we're buying for £150,000, the first £125,000 is now charged at 3%. The next £25,000 is charged at 5%. 3% of £125,000 is £3,750, and 5% of £25,000 is £1,250. So we add those together, 3,750 plus 1,250, and the total is £5,000. So you might remember before it was £500 if you didn't own another property, but now it's £5,000 if you do own another property. Quite a big jump. Moving on to the second example. The £280,000 purchase would work in the same way. The first £125,000 is charged at 3%, the next £125,000 is charged at 5%, and the extra £30,000 is charged at 8%. 3% of £125,000 is £3,750, 5% of the next £125,000 is £6,250, 8% of £30,000 is £2,400. Add them all together, and that comes to £12,400. Final example, for the £1 million purchase, the first £125,000 at 3%, the next £125,000 at 5%, the next £675,000 $75,000 is at 8%, and the extra $75,000 is now at 13%. The first part at 3% comes to £3,750. The second part at 5% is £6,250. Then we have 8% of $675,000, which is £54,000, and 13% of $75,000, which is £9,750. Add them all together and you get £73,750. That's an extra £30,000 if you already own another property. Now, there are a few occasions when this higher rates stamp duty rule, which relates to additional properties, doesn't apply. For example, if you replace your property at the same time as buying, then you pay the standard rates. If there is a delay in selling your main residence and you buy your new main residence, then you'll have to pay the higher stamp duty for the new main residence. But when you come to sell your previous main residence, you can claim back that additional 3% surcharge from the government if the property was sold within 3 years from the date of the new purchase. If you are buying as a result of a divorce, then you would also be paying the normal stamp duty, not the additional stamp duty. If you are a married couple and the husband already owns a property that they don't want to sell, buying a new property in the wife's name only won't save you that additional 3% stamp duty because the government sees a married couple as one unit. To work out if you should or shouldn't have to pay the higher stamp duty, you should ask yourself the following. Do any of the buyers already own or jointly own another property? It doesn't matter if it's in the UK or abroad. If yes, and if your share in that property is more than £40,000, then you will have to pay the higher stamp duty unless A, that property is your main residence, and B, if you sell it before or on the completion date of your new purchase. Remember, a married couple is seen as a single unit, so if your wife or your husband owns a property, the government would say you would own it as well. There are many other examples where you may or may not have to pay the higher stamp duty. If in doubt, speak to a specialist tax advisor or feel free to leave me a comment and I'll try and help where possible. Now, the government started charging a higher tax to those who already own a property, but they've also been helping out first-time buyers. If you or anyone you are buying with has never owned a property either inside or outside the UK, then a first-time buyer's relief will be applied. This means you will pay 0% for any purchases up to £300,000 and only 5% from over £300,000 up to £500,000. That means if you're a first-time buyer and then you save £5,000. There is one vital condition to be aware of, however. In order to claim the first-time buyer's relief, you cannot buy a property for any more than £500,000. Let's move on to how land transaction tax works in Wales. In April 2018, the Welsh Government introduced their own property stamp duty, which they say is a fairer system. The tax payable is collected by the Welsh Revenue Authority. The thresholds are different to those in stamp duty land tax, which is payable in England. Let's have a look. You pay nothing for up to £180,000. Anything over £180,000 but up to £250,000 is charged at 3.5%. Anything over £250,000 but up to £400,000 is charged at 5%. Anything charged at over £400,000 but up to £750,000 is charged at 7.5%. And anything over £750,000 up to £1.5 million is charged at 10%. And anything over £1.5 million is charged at 12%. The tax is calculated in the same way as we showed in the previous examples, but for the changes in the threshold. So, for a purchase of £280,000, you pay nothing for the first £180,000, 3.5% on the next £70,000, and 5% on the additional £30,000. So we have £0 plus £2,450 plus £1,500, and that totals £3,950, which is a saving of £50 when compared to the tax payable for the same purchase of the same value in England. We won't be going through all the examples again, but on the screen you'll see comparables between tax paid in England and tax paid in Wales. The same rules apply when buying a second home, in that the Welsh Revenue Authority will charge a 3% surcharge, just like the HMRC does in England. However, the Welsh Government aren't as kind to first-time buyers as they won't provide any tax relief. Another frequent question that is asked is, when does the tax need to be paid? In England, you have to file your tax return and make payment within 14 days from the date of the completion. In Wales, you have 30 days to file your return and make payment from the date of completion. However, your conveyancing solicitor will ask you for the payment before completion, as they will be making the payment on your behalf. Please note, your solicitor may charge a fee for completing the stamp duty return on your behalf, even if you don't have to actually pay stamp duty. It's a rather complicated form, so you could do it yourself, but most firms of solicitors have an automated electronic system that works with their case management system. I would therefore recommend that you check with your solicitor before instructing them as to what their fees are with regards to this. Another frequent question that is asked is whether the stamp duty can be added to your mortgage. The answer is no. A lender will not lend you the money to pay your stamp duty. Furthermore, if you are borrowing or receiving a gift from a member of your family, this would need to be declared with your mortgage lender. So there you have it. a summary of how stamp duty works in England and Wales. I'll leave a couple of useful links in the video which you may find helpful. If you enjoyed watching this video, then please click that like button and that subscribe button, and if you have any comments or questions, please do leave them and I'll aim to come back to you as soon as I can. Until next time, goodbye.